Hello! Feels like it's been a very long time. This is episode 7, day, not a clue, probably about double that. Let's not think about it. Anyway, let me go and get Pointy. So, quick update. Day 7, it's Saturday, not day 7, episode 7. It's Saturday, so I'm off work. I'm cracking on with this frame. I've got a bit of a temporary shelter going on to keep the rain off. The rack, as you can see, is pretty much completed. I've just finished welding these pump mounts on to the frame. I'm just going to give it a final test fit, so drop it into the back of the car and make sure that all the clearances are set. So there's going to be a little bit of a break, and then the next bit will come up. So that's the rack wedged in. It's just got pieces of metal holding it up. Once you've got all the height set to where you want them to be, you've got it welded in, you can pull these spaces out and then you know it's set and perfect to where you had it. And you trial fitted everything. So let's go and get a pump. Now I've temporarily just put something behind there just to hold the pump up. Just roughly align the holes. Get your, I think the 3/8 UNC bolts. Line them up. Chuck 2 of them in. I've got a spring washer on these just to help retain them, as the car will be bouncing about a bit. We don't want anything to come loose. Where are you, bastard? Now, some people will slot these holes so you can fit the nuts and then slide them on, which I've done on a few installs myself, but on this one I wanted to get the holes nice and precise. Okay, I'll leave that loose for now. Let's get a battery tray. Put your battery tray somewhere around where we want it to end up. So I'm trying to keep a gap there so this can be panelled, keep a gap here so a carpet can slide underneath. And also you need to make sure that you've got a gap between the pump and the batteries. I've only got a battery. These are just some old batteries that were originally in the El Camino, and that's why they're that colour. And then they were in the Honda. And now we're waiting for a new project. So I'm quite pleased with that clearance. I don't know if you can see. So from this angle, you can see the pump mounted. Let me just tilt that up. As you can see with the pump mounted, there's clearance here. We've still got clearance underneath there, so run a carpet underneath. There's clearance here, so you could run a panel at the back. You've got fitting angles so the hose will run up that way, and that fitting so the hose will run up back there. If you have issues with clearance with hoses, you can run different fittings if needs be. So I'm just going to get the other pump in, make sure I'm happy with the clearances, and then the next stage is to get the rack out, give it a good clean and give it a paint. So again, I've just got this side a bit of tape just to hold the pump up. Get your 3/8 UNC bolts. These are, I think these are 3/4 of an inch, or maybe 7/8 long. You don't want to be too long because they'll bottom out in the hole. You don't want to be too short, so you need to make sure that they're grabbing enough thread. So get your holes lined up. Again, I'm just going finger tight for now. There. Battery tray. Just put that in there. Get a battery. Oh, they're heavy. Place that in. Push it all the way up to the end. Make sure you've got some good clearance. And then tighten up one of these bolts just to get it to sit flat. Same on the other side. You don't need to go mad tight, just so you can get an idea where they're going to lie. And again, you want to make sure that you've got, just get the camera off here. Again, you want to make sure that you've got clearance that you wanted under here. So a carpet can be slid underneath that from this angle. You want to make sure you've got clearance here, clearance down the side of the pump. We're not at that phase yet, but once we know how we want the batteries to line up, we can weld the battery trays in, but that comes after paint. So I'm going to paint this rack, clean it, rub it back, prime it, rub it back. It's going to have a coat of gloss black. While that's drying, this trunk floor is going to have a new coat of bed liner paint. And then the rack will go back in once it's painted. You have to be very careful and not to scratch it up. And then these areas where you decide you want the batteries to mount, just clean it up with a flat disc so you can get a weld. And then you know every surface is painted. If you weld this battery tray in the car, you won't be able to paint all the surfaces. You're going to end up with bare metal everywhere, which is why I build the rack off the car, then install it after it's been painted. So the rack's been in and out and in and out and in and out a few times. Almost forgot how to mount the solenoids. If you've seen the previous video that I uploaded to the YouTube channel, you'll see how I choose to mount them. I've got to the stage where the solenoids are mounted to the rack. All the welds are hidden from the underside, all the screws and everything will be hidden. These will be mounted underneath the batteries, out of eye shot, nice and tidy. You'll still be able to get in to change these, albeit you'll have to take the batteries out if you ever need to change solenoids, but I think that's it's worth it. So now I'm just going to do the old mark around these solenoids. Again, it doesn't have to be super precise, you just have to get an idea of where the base of your solenoids are going to mount, and then you can cut around the templates that you've made so you can mask off where the solenoids are going to sit. There it is, there's the loose outline, so I'm just going to get a Stanley blade and cut that shape out. And the reason why I do this is because the solenoids are through the bodies where they mount here. So if you mount these onto a painted surface, you're going to end up with sticky solenoids, electrical issues, etc. So this will be bare metal, and then everywhere around it will be painted, so you don't end up with a rusty pump rack. There you have it, there's the solenoid mounts masked off. I just need to mask the surface that the pumps are going to mount on. They're obviously upside down at the minute. And this can have a coat of primer, a couple of coats each side, quick flatten off, and then a coat of gloss black. The trunk is more or less done. It's had a new coat of bed liner. Cleaned up all the holes, painted them, cut the holes for the hoses, painted them, just waiting for some O-rings to come through in the post to protect. Rack's painted, battery trays are painted, solenoids are built up, solenoid mounts are on, pump mounts are on, just painting the tie down bars over there. Jobs for today, I need to run the front hoses underneath the length of the car. I've just been underneath there this morning to have a look and see where it's all going to go. So the hose needs to run down there somewhere, making sure it doesn't foul on any steering or any exhaust or anything like that. Run along the frame rails, clipped and tied and whatever we can, best we can, to the underside of the car, making sure it's well protected, and then up through those two holes, and then that's the rams, the hoses in line, the rams in place, pretty much everything ready for the pump rack to go in. So I just need to clean up those uprights on the side that they're going to mount to the frame, prop the frame in, again do all my measuring, make sure everything fits okay, weld the rack to the frame, make sure I'm happy with that, make sure it's nice and strong, mount the pumps, run the hoses, and then check the clearance for the battery trays. Once I'm happy with where the battery trays are going to go, I need to just clean up these areas that I'm going to weld across there and here, nice and hidden underneath the batteries, so you won't see any welds. So those trays will be welded in, and then all the batteries can be mounted, and then put the battery terminals on, cut and run all the cables and the disconnect, and then it's just a switch wire. So when I run hoses, I like to just block up the end that you're going to be running down the underside of the car. That's just to stop any bits of grease and swarf, and as I've got a gravel driveway and dirt from getting into the system. What I tend to do is get the hose that you're going to fit to the ram, run it down the side of the car, bosh, and then just keep this other end stretched out on the floor. Whoa. There you go. And do the same with the other one. And then you need to feed the hose up from underneath, making sure that you stay clear of any moving part. Steering column's there, so you don't want it to foul on that. You also see the mechanism for the transmission is down there, so you don't want it to catch on that. So, and you also don't want it to get hot rubbing on exhaust manifolds. So it can be a bit tricky, but there's always a way. So I'm going to try and run it now. Okay, after a bit of a struggle, the hose is on. Obviously clearing all your manifolds, etc. Let's just zoom out a little bit. And you clip it to this bracket here, which doesn't move, it's a fixed bracket. And that will keep it away from the steering column. And if you can get underneath there. I don't know if you can make it out, it's a bit dark. But the hose will clear this handbrake or parking brake, and then underneath the transmission cross member, and then it's going to run all the way down the frame rail, and then we've got to make sure that it'll clear all of rear suspension and go up through the hole in the trunk floor. Apologies, I haven't been filming a lot. I've been stacked out busy trying to get this done in the daylight. It's taken a lot of work to get it in, but we're getting there, So this is a quick update, and it is cold. So the rack is in, it's painted. I've had to touch up a few bits of paint where I've welded. Obviously these are the important bits across the front and across the back, because they'll be the only bits that you can see up from the size of the battery trays there. We've got the pump mounts, bare metal, ready to go. Solenoid mounts underneath the battery trays. Battery trays are in, solid. Nothing's moving. Just need to give everything a bit of a dust. I've got an air blower. I'm going to blow everything out of here. Then I can start assembling.